Hey, it's me, Theater of the Phantom, and this is me dick riding off my last video. I'm not gonna try to make an excuse, I just can't think of any good ideas. Now,
on with the goddamn show.
The Dirt is a 2019 film based off of the story of the 1980s hair metal band Motley Crue, directed by famed Jackass director Jeff Tremaine, backed up by the Crue themselves. This movie is based off of the actually good autobiographical book of the same name. So before I start shit-talking the movie, and before all the Crue fans come after me, obviously no biopic is going to be 100% accurate. This video is all for shits and giggles, and I love this movie with a passion, and Machine Gun Kelly is one of my favorite metal bands. The casting for the movie is pretty well done on behalf of whoever the fuck casted these people. I don't know, I'm too lazy to look it up. The casting for the Crue consists of Douglas Booth as Nikki Sixx, Ramsey Snow as Mick Mars, someone irrelevant as Tommy Lee, and Daniel Weber as Vince Neil. All these people kill their roles in this film, similar to how Machine Gun Kelly continues to kill his career. We will go over future casting as the movie progresses. The movie starts off with a Frank Carlton Ferrana Jr. introducing us to the Motley house. This scene is an introduction, so it's loosely based off of a real story, but here we have this lovely lady with a very impressive talent. In this movie, this woman is unnamed but is actually a real person. This opening scene of the movie is loosely based off of the intro to the book. This nice young lady is named Bullwinkle. Why? The Crue called her that because, quote, she had the face of a moose. This scene is basically an introduction to Motley Crue, so it's not of too much importance. The real movie kicks off in Seattle of 1967 with a young Frank Carlton Ferrana named after his father. Sixx describes his childhood as
a revolving door of asshole stepfathers, her, and music.
Sixx was born in San Jose in 1958, living with his mother. Sixx's father left when he was just 3, and by the time he had turned 6, his mother abandoned him and left him with his grandparents.
When I got to Seattle, early, 15 maybe years old, living with my grandparents in Idaho.
Sixx was a troubled child, often stealing things, selling drugs, and breaking into places. Sixx's grandma ended up saying fuck that and handed him back to his mother when he was 15, who had already relocated to Seattle. The film jumps to 1973 with a teenage Nikki Sixx played by Vince Mattis listening to Solid Gold Easy Action by T-Rex released in 1972. Sixx describes his first encounter with a guitar when he was with his mother in Seattle. Sixx claims that his mother was married to a man named Ramon who owned a guitar with only 3 strings on it.
I had stacks of journals, and she was married to this guy at the time, and he had a guitar in the corner.
Okay.
It had 3 strings on it. It was an acoustic guitar. That's it. I loved music. So there's a guitar, and I love music.
If you love music, that's all you need.
It said that Sixx traded in a stolen guitar so we could get a bass, but this being replaced with stolen vinyl along with the stolen bass in the film is not far off whatsoever. Sixx and his mother ended up getting into an argument over the loss of his father and ends up cutting his arm open with a switchblade in an attempt to get his mother arrested. Once he's informed that if his mother gets arrested he will be put in a juvenile home, he ends up denying the claims that his mother attacked him with a knife.
She attacked you with a knife. Yep. Here's what's gonna happen, Frank. If we take her away, the state is gonna put you in a juvenile home until you're 18.
So his compromise was to move to Los Angeles when he turned 17. The entirety of the scene where Nikki's feuding with his mother is completely true. Kinda. In the book, Nikki describes the situation as, she was mad at me over something, staying out late, not doing homework, playing music too loud, dressing like a slob, I can't remember, and I couldn't take it anymore. But that was just the beginning. I've been planning on what came next for some time. I ran to a nearby house filled with degenerates I'd like to get stoned with and asked for a knife. Someone tossed me a stiletto. I popped out the blade, extended my bracelet-covered left arm, and plunged the knife in directly above the elbow, sliding it downward about 4 inches and deep enough in some places to see bone. Then I called the police and had said my mother attacked me. After Sixx almost got arrested at a Rolling Stones concert, he told his mother he wanted to leave Seattle, so he was sent back to Idaho and worked on a farm.
And I got busted at a Rolling Stones concert because I was an entrepreneur with 2 ounces of chocolate mescaline. I used to make a nice profit right there. And I had a choice to go to juvie till I was of age, or my mom just signed for me to, be on my own.
Okay.
When she signed, I took a Greyhound bus to Idaho, worked the fields, moving irrigation pipes, saved up more money.
Nikki's uncle, who was the president of Capitol Records at the time, gave him the inspiration to move to LA. His uncle Don later helped him get a job at a record store, but in just a few months, he was unemployed and homeless on the streets of Los Angeles. The next scene moves to Los Angeles in 1978. It's at this moment that Nikki Sixx is born after being cancelled out when calling his father. Sixx states he picked up on the first ring, and when I told him it was me, his voice turned gruff. "I don't have a son," he told me. "I do not have a son. I don't know who you are." "Go fuck yourself," I yelled into the receiver. This was the last time he had ever heard his father's voice. Nikki had an ex in the late 70s named Angie, who had an ex whose name was Nikki Sixx. Originally, Sixx didn't want to copy his name, so he was going to be Nikki 9, but everyone said it was too punk. Then he chose Nikki London, but didn't want to be Nikki London from the band London, so instead he ended up stealing his name, but put an extra X in it. This was officially the death of Frank Farana Jr. Then we move into Covina, California of 1981, with drummer Tommy Lee played by Colson Baker, also known as Garbage. Tommy is seen leaving a London show with the Whiskey A Go-Go, London being Nikki's old band. After the show ends in a brawl, Tommy, being the fangirl that he is, notices Sixx from the show, and they talk about joining his new band.
That's Nikki fucking Sixx.
Who?
From the band we just saw. Should I go talk to him? I should talk to him, right?
That was badass, dude. The show, not the nose, but my new band is gonna be something nobody's ever fucking seen before.
Now this is not true. Tommy was the drummer for a band known as Sweet 19, and their guitarist Greg Leon started playing with Nikki, who had left London and was trying to form a new band. Lee states, "Nikki had seen Sweet 19 play that night at the Starwood and liked my style. Greg gave him my number and I went to meet him at the Denny's at Burbank Boulevard. After lunch we went to this little shit shack house that was barely standing in North Hollywood. A couple days later I drove my drum set to Nikki's and we started jamming, just bass and drums." This scene segues into Nikki and Tommy and an unnamed guitar player playing Livewire in Nikki's apartment. The Crue did in fact have another guitarist before Mick Mars named Robin Moore. Robin was pretty talented, but he was said to be a pansy and everyone knew it. Tommy says Robin tucked his shirt into his pants, washed his hands before touching his guitar, warmed up by playing scales, and in general acted as if he'd gone to college for a guitar degree, and that all he had going for him was his cool hair. Later on, Nikki and Tommy find another guitarist in a newspaper labeled Loud, Rude, and Aggressive.
Tommy and Nikki met each other through a friend of theirs that they had both together, and they found me through an ad in the paper. Loud, rude, and aggressive guitar player, me.
This guitarist would be none other than Mick Mars. This scene is portrayed in the movie when Tommy and Nikki first meet at the Denny's. When Mars came up to the apartment and set up his equipment, the Crue plays the riff to Livewire, and Mick one-ups the current guitarist.
Hey, you mind turning down a little bit, old timer? I can't hear myself.
After the stunt, Mick, Tommy, and Nikki all agree that the blonde asshole has to go.
You're gonna listen to this old dude over me? Fuck you guys, man!
So they kick him out of the band and Mick takes over. In reality, Mick and the band all play Stick to Your Guns. After kicking out the hippie, Mars looks back on his diagnosis of ankylosing spondylitis, which he still deals with today.
It's like hot, quick-drying cement growing on the inside of your spine, making it so heavy, over the years it starts to pull you to the ground.
And yes, I looked it up, the Mickster did actually look like this. They end up on the discussion about wanting a singer, in which Tommy thinks he knows someone who would fit.
What we need is a dude that looks like David Lee Roth with a vibe like fucking Bowie. And I'm not about to settle for some regular-looking, normal-sounding asshole.
So, we're looking for a skinny blonde fucker with moves.
Wait, I think I know our guy, dudes.
The scene moves into Tommy, Mick, and Nikki walking into a backyard party where they run into a Vince Neil and his band Rock Candy playing My Kinda Lover by Billy Squier, which, say it with me now, was not yet released. Now this scene, along with the rest of the movie, is in slight debate on whether or not this is actually Daniel Weber singing or if it's Motley Inc. singer Timmy Craven. Tommy walks up to Vince and gives Vince their mixtape and tells him to call so he can sing for the band, in which Vince responds with,
"Okay, there's no way I was calling Tommy and his sketchy friends. I was in a band to get laid, not scare chicks away."
And then in the middle of a popsicle session with his lady, he reconsiders and decides to give the band a shot. I'm not going to show this clip, so here's a video of penguins falling with the audio over it.
You know, Tommy did let me sleep in his van when I ran away from home. Maybe I should call him tomorrow.
Vince enters and introduces himself to the band. Vince's newfound girlfriend starts giving her very unneeded comments before and during the rehearsal of Livewire.
I'm just trying to make sure these guys are good enough to play with you, baby.
Sorry, what?
This music's way too heavy, baby.
Thank you.
This prompts Nikki to give one of many of my favorite lines in the movie.
Really stretch out the chorus, and you punch the top, man.
Okay.
And hit this note, right here, and muzzle that.
Hey, fuck you, asshole! He doesn't tell me what to do, so you go fuck yourself, motherfucker!
It's at this moment that everyone in the band realizes that there's a little something special about this bunch.
Holy shit.
After the scene, the band is gathered around a table and Mr. Lee uses hairspray and a lighter to take care of the roaches. This was confirmed by Nikki Sixx.
We used to use hairspray and lighters to kill the cockroaches at our apartment. That's 100% true. There wouldn't have been so many cockroaches if we could have figured out how to take the trash out.
In discussion of what the band is going to be, they go across the topic of names, in which Nikki pitches the name
X-Mass?
Yeah. When told that name blows complete ass, the gang all gets handed pens and paper. Tommy brings up the name The Four Skins, which the Crue did actually use as a name in 1991. It's at this shining moment that Mick turns around his notebook and gives the camera the name Motley Crue.
Been waiting a long time for this day.
He then hands it to Nikki, and Nikki gives it the two metal umlauts also seen in bands like Blue Oyster Cult and Motorhead. It's at this moment that Motley Crue is born. Mick had originally gotten this name from a past band he'd been in called White Horse, when a bandmate had said, "This is a pretty motley looking crew." This scene fades into backstage at the Starwood, where the Crue prepares for their first show. When they appear on stage, Tommy knocks over one of his cymbals, making the crowd think that they're unprofessional. As they proceed with their song Take Me to the Top, they get booed and Vince gets insulted and spit on.
Who's the chick singer? Fuck you, asshole!
This leads to a big brawl between the band and the crowd.
Are you fucking kidding me? Our first show and it's gonna go like this?
Hey! Hell yeah, it's gonna go down like this, dude. Let's kick some fucking ass.
All this was confirmed by Nikki Sixx.
False. A woman did not start a brawl to start with. It was a guy who spit on Vince.
This fight gains the crowd's respect and they proceed with their set list. During the scene, a montage is shown of the Crue making props for their live performances and a recreation of two famous Motley Crue photos. During this montage, Tom Zutaut is introduced, who is played by Pete Davidson, who looks absolutely nothing like Tom Zutaut, and I'm 99% sure he is there only due to being very close friends with Machine Gun Smelly. He introduces himself as the executive of Elektra Records and attempts to go in and gets thrown to the back of the line, as he should. In this scene, Mick shows off his very famous Mars guitar during a recreation of a real Motley Crue concert. After the concert, Tom meets up with the Crue at the famed Rainbow Bar and Grill and discuss business. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that there's a nice young lady under the table giving free foot massages.
Not for you?
After asking the Crue if they want a record deal, another recreation of a famous Motley Crue clip ensues.
So what do you guys say? Do you want a record deal?
The sell, the more drugs we get, and the drugs are fantastic at the top.
The Crue eventually got signed to Elektra Records for a 5-album deal. This film fails to mention the fact that their debut album, Too Fast for Love, was created under Motley Crue's own record label, Leather Records. This next scene is shown in the Motley house with a very unconvincing David Lee Roth from Van Halen. Then a man by the name of Doc McGee, played by David Costabile, comes in and absolutely obliterates a man that knocked over a mirror against David's head. And I'll just let this scene speak for itself.
What is everybody looking at?
This didn't actually happen. Doc never came to this filthy shithole. We met him at the Santa Monica Civic Center after a show. He also brought his partner, Doug Thaler. Doug's a good guy, and it's kind of shitty he got cut from this movie. But I think this is as good a version as any. So, on with the goddamn show.
The scene segues into the Crue backstage on their Shout at the Devil tour, with Vince nowhere to be seen. Turns out Vince was in his dressing room hooking up with Tom Zutaut's girlfriend.
Christ, you do realize we just signed a record deal with his company and that fucking his girlfriend could seriously fuck that up.
Only if he finds out, man.
I found out many years later, and it hurt really bad. Bottom line is, don't ever leave your girlfriend alone with Motley Crue. Ever! Because they'll fuck her.
This part is completely true. According to Zutaut, I'll put it this way, for 20 years I didn't even know what happened. All I knew was that we went to the 1983 US Festival and we were having a good time at the show. She went to use the bathroom or something, and I lost her. Then Motley's set ended, and I went backstage to look for her. It was nuts. There was a backstage area with a bunch of trailers and mobile homes. I went to Motley's dressing room, and the security guys would not let me in. Finally, they did, and I still couldn't find her. I found her maybe a half hour later, sort of standing in a hospitality area. She seemed really upset about something. I kept asking her what was wrong, and she would say nothing, but then she was like, "I'm gonna sleep on the couch tonight." Now obviously this is not the 1983 US festival, but it uses the same dialogue from it.
Title track from this up-and-coming album! We call it Shout at the Devil! Come on!
The transition between scenes is an MTV report on their second album, Shout at the Devil.
To controversy are under fire once again for their latest satanic song, Shout at the Devil. The group brushed off the accusations, claiming it's Shout at the Devil, not with the devil.
Behind this, and the reason why we put it right out here and we said, look at this. There's a pentagram. But why don't you read? When we're telling these religious fanatics, read this. Shout at the devil. It doesn't say shout with the devil. It's at the devil. And that's why we put the pentagram right on the front.
And a lot of things, if you stand in the middle of it, the evil can't get into you. Right. So it's actually a good symbol.
This was indeed a big controversy and was originally titled Shout with the Devil until they changed it at the last minute. This then gives us the information that the Crue is going on tour with famed Black Sabbath singer Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy is introduced at a public pool at a hotel immediately by showing his ass directly at the camera. Ozzy is played by Tony Cavallero, who not only doesn't look like Ozzy, but also gives Ozzy a very thick Australian accent.
Now this is your first real tour, right? I want you to be careful. Have fun, but know when to say when.
The Crue also has a talk with Mick, in which this film paints Mick to be a man who respects women and doesn't like to have anything to do with having sex with every girl that rolls through town.
I happen to have respect for myself and the females of our species.
This is highly untrue, with Mars saying, "Without groupies, I probably wouldn't have been a musician." As Ozzy comes in, he talks with the Crue about the ins and outs of touring. He then proceeds to get down on the floor and snort a line of ants off the concrete as if it was cocaine. He then proceeds to urinate onto the concrete and licks it up. In a competitive manner, Nikki goes over and pees on the concrete with the intention of licking it up and proving himself. Ozzy then pushes Nikki away and licks up the mix of both he and Nikki's piss. Surprisingly, this entire sequence is true.
That was one of those moments when you realize that Ozzy was the king, because Ozzy whipped it out and peed at the pool and licked it up. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm gonna let this guy top me. And I did the same, and then Ozzy went down and licked it up, and we were like, okay, that's it, you're the king. Forever, he's the king.
We pull into I don't know, must have been, I think it was some resort-style hotel in Florida.
It was a tour of who could outgross the next,
Ozzy sees a popsicle stick laying on the ground, and there's a long trail of ants going to it. And he gets down on his knees and he goes,
I was snorting ants one night. I found me drunk snorting ants on this thing. Crazy stuff.
And we're like going, oh, dude, that dude's f***ing crazy.
After the scene, it shows a pretty accurate recreation of the Looks Like Kill music video. It also shows Nikki and Tommy running across the halls and destroying everything. This part is 100% true.
We got arrested one night in Denver when we were on tour down there, and he got busted for indecent exposure.
It was a couple of years ago. We were playing in Denver, Colorado. I remember real plain. Tommy was running through the hallways naked.
I decided to take my clothes off and run down the halls and harass the shit out of everybody. An old lady poked her head out of her hotel room. Tommy's running around naked. Called the front desk. They sent the cops up. Said a man with long black hair has just been seen running around naked.
The first door they knocked on, they said there's some guy with long black hair running up and down the hallways nude. So I got popped. That was the first door they knocked on. That's the guy.
This also leads to the Crue at a strip club where Vince meets his soon-to-be wife, Charisse. It also shows their first encounter with Hanoi Rocks drummer Razzle Dinkley, who will be very important later on.
Motley Crue, you all alright? Razzle, Hanoi Rocks. What's up, man? Well, we're touring the States for the first time, mate.
Alright, sit down, join us.
Backstage of the music video, Nikki Sixx is seen having a wrestling match with a groupie that he found. He gets called out to meet Tommy's parents, only to find out that that groupie is Tommy's fiancée.
Dad, this is Roxy, my fiance.
Nice to meet you.
We're getting married.
Then Doc offers to fly Nikki's very happy family out to LA for Motley Crue's next show.
Hey, Nikki, we could fly your family out for the next LA gig.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Doc.
Tommy's fiancée Roxy describes that she met Tommy through Sweet 19 and storms off after being called a groupie by Tommy's foreign mother.
Mom, it's not cool.
After this scene, Tommy is seen talking to Nikki in a tour bus about a vision he has of a drum set in a big steel cage, spinning around but can't quite explain it. So he asks Roxy for a pen.
I should just drop for you. Hey, Roxy, you got a pen? Give me a pen.
Roxy then proceeds to shit-talk Tommy's mother and the situation escalates real quick.
All right, it's tradition.
Which tradition? The mandatory meeting of the cunt?
Don't call it that again. You hear me?
As Tommy grows increasingly angrier, Roxy drives a pen into Tommy's shoulder. Tommy then stops the tour bus and kicks Roxy off. After one more jab at Tommy's mother, Tommy strikes Roxy in the face as the rest of the crew watch in shock. After realizing what he had done, Tommy runs off into the back of the bus. In reality, this did happen, but with Tommy's ex-wife, Pamela Anderson, who was not even mentioned once in this entire movie for some odd reason. It's at this moment that I have to about wrap up the video for part 1. Part 2 should be coming soon. Sorry for the long wait on videos, but thank you for watching all the way through. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos, and also because I worked super hard on making this video. Peace.